What's good? What's good? Hey, we got a great episode for you today. We are going to be talking about our league's latest, the Fellowship of the Fantasy Ring. We're going to give you an update, as well as trade targets for Week 3 and Thursday night football matchups. It's going to be a great episode. Let's get straight to it.
Welcome to the FantasyLand Football Podcast.
Hello. Welcome in to the FantasyLand Football Podcast. It is Wednesday, the 23rd of September. I was going to say it's Wednesday, my dudes, again, but that's worn out. Badaki is here with me, my co-host. Badaki, how are you doing today? Better than the last podcast when Saquon got that injury?
Better than the last podcast. All my emotions are out. I just have to look forward for the future now. The Giants are... I don't know. It's okay,
they signed
though.
Devonta Freeman.
I'm still excited for the
right?
season to watch all the games, but not excited to watch the Giants without Saquon. But it's all right.
Yeah, speaking of a game that was very exciting to watch, Monday Night Football a couple days ago, Saints at Raiders. Yeah. What an interesting game. You said that the Raiders would have a chance, and they did. They won the game.
I mean, you said it too. Can Derek Carr, step up and be this guy that he needs to be for this Raiders team? And he did. He came out in the second, I think it was either second quarter or the second half, and he just took the lead in every aspect. Yeah, it was great.
We may have seen as to why Drew Brees was considering retirement. That's not supposed to be rude. He just did not look great. Emmanuel Sanders, a lot of people confidently started Emmanuel Sanders, and they should have. And he was a complete ghost.
He was gone.
Not. Did he actually play? Can we double check that he was actually there?
He was there. He just didn't do anything, unfortunately.
But speaking of someone who did do something, Darren Waller is an absolute beast.
Crazy.
He went crazy, 28 points or something in PPR?
Yeah, 28 points. I think he had 12, 13 targets and a touchdown.
Just insane numbers. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. We just want to let you know we are doing a Tyreek Hill signed jersey from Pristine Auction giveaway. We love giving away free stuff. And Tyreek Hill is a really awesome player. A lot of you might want his jersey. Yeah. Super easy to enter. Just head to our Instagram at FantasyLand Football. Follow the steps on there. While you're there, give us a follow. You can always follow us on Twitter at FantasyLand_FB. And as always, there's two ways to, consume the podcast. You can watch on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications if you do, and subscribe. And you can listen through any podcast platform you desire. We just got added to iHeartRadio as well.
Let's go.
So Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever you want to listen to, you can. If you are listening on Apple Pods, please drop us a review. That would be extremely helpful. But let's get into the show. We're going to start off with some need-to-know news around the NFL that you need to be aware of. Lots of injuries this week. Lots of injuries.
It's too many.
It's sad.
It's terrible.
It's just not the way it should be, is it?
No, not at all. 7 torn ACLs in week 2 of the NFL. So many people went down. So many people with either sprained ankles, sprained knees, anything that's sprained, they're hurt. They're down something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a good day, not a good week really for a fantasy owner, but obviously, these players' lives matter more than fantasy, so it's just sad.
Yeah.
Davante Adams is someone to talk about. He has been quoted as uncertain for week 3. I think we see eye to eye on this. Is Davante Adams going to play week 3?
I think he will play. I think he's going to just have those veteran rest days throughout the week. I think MVS, if he doesn't start, MVS could be somebody you can plug in, but I'm not confident in MVS still. But I think Devontae should be good week 3.
Speaking of another Devonta, not Devontae, but close. Devonta Freeman signs with your New York Football Giants.
That's right.
We talked about this before we made our waiver wire post. Now that Devonta Freeman is signed, I'm way more confident in him as a waiver wire option than Dion Lewis personally. How do you feel about that situation?
I think that Devontae will just be your 1-2 punch guy. They're going to give him the ball in the first and second down, and then Dion Lewis is going to be a pass catching back. Devontae, I think, will get more of the goal line options, but I think I think Joe wants to stay with the run. Excuse me. I think Joe wants to stay with the run, but if Devontae can't get it working, then he's just going to let Danny Dimes take control in the passing game.
Will be interesting to see how it plays out. The 49ers did not have a very good weekend. They won the game. I saw a meme. That Avengers meme where they're like, "Did you do it? Yes. What did it cost? Everything." I saw a meme. Yeah. Did you beat the Jets? Yes. What did it cost? Everything. Raheem Mostert, MRI, confirms that he has an MCL sprain. Won't play Sunday, but optimistic for a quick return for Raheem. Jimmy G, sprained ankle. There's a chance to play this week. Not sure how that will look. Not sure how that will affect George Kittle. Tevin Coleman, knee sprain, will miss several weeks. This one isn't fantasy relevant, but Bosa is also out. Torn ACL. It's just... I think they lost Solomon Thomas as well on the defensive line. It's a hard week for a 49ers fan. Yeah, lots of injuries.
I think if you have the 49ers defense, you could be really reconsidering, They lost two of their top defensive ends there in Solomon Thomas and Nick Bosa. I don't know.
I think it should probably be a week-to-week type matchup for you now. They're not a lock-in, regardless of the matchup type defense, I don't think. Right. But on to Cam Akers, separated his ribs. Is that right? Did he separate his ribs?
There was two different reports I read. So I think the report is either gotten mistaken. I heard separated ribs and then rib cartilage. What that means, I have no idea. But apparently it's extremely painful. And he's currently day-to-day, but he could be playing week 3. We just don't know yet.
Yeah, and I think the reality is for that Rams backfield, we've talked about it in a previous pod, but it's not pretty for fantasy anymore.
No.
There could still be the upside, but it doesn't look very pretty. Paris Campbell, no timetable on his return, MCL and PCL sprain. You can drop him. Drew Lock, you can also drop Lock, I believe so, could miss at least a month with a sprained ACL joint. And in rebuttal, I guess, to response would be the right word, to Drew Lock getting injured, the Broncos signed almost AFC conference champion Blake Bortles from the Jaguars.
No surprise there.
Not surprising. Yeah, they needed that depth, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not confident. If you're questioning if you should get Blake Bortles over Drew Lock or start him, I don't think so. Don't pick him up. I'm not picking up anyone in the Broncos QB room. Just let him be.
I don't reckon he's going to even be the starter, to be honest. No. He'll definitely be the backup. And regardless, you don't want to have to. It's not even a name to consider, really.
Yeah.
That is all for Need to Know News. We are moving on to Thursday night football matchups. We talked about this matchup, Dolphins at Jaguars, and at first we kind of both said, man, this is a little bit of like a not so cool matchup for fantasy, but the more you look at this matchup, there is a lot of fantasy relevant players, mostly because the Jags have really been a team that no one expected them to be so far, very early into the season. But really, really cool matchup for me, at least when it comes to fantasy perspective. Why don't you take us through the Dolphins side of the ball first?
Right. Dolphins side of the ball. Obviously, they have Devontae Parker. That's their number one receiver. 5 receptions, 8 targets for 56 yards and 1 touchdown in last week's game. He was a bit limited at practice, but I still expect him to play this week. He's been on and off even throughout training camp. But like I said, I expect him to play. I'm not excited at all to start him if I have him. I'm not excited to start anyone on the Miami Dolphins teams, on either of these teams, to be honest. They're known for this reputation to not be the best teams and not to really have anyone to start with confidence. But look, what more can you expect from them?
I don't know. I think Parker's a pretty solid flex play, personally.
Yeah,
I
think
would not
he's
be
a solid flex
upset
play
by it if I had to start him at the flex. Yeah. So definitely something to keep in mind. Preston Williams is the wide receiver 2 there, but it still seems pretty clear, don't you think, that Parker is the guy?
Oh, absolutely. I think he's definitely the guy, but I'm still just not confident. I don't like it.
It's fair.
Yeah.
It's fair. It's not the sexiest matchup.
No. Continuing with tight end Mike Gesicki, last week 8 receptions, 11 targets, 130 yards, and a touchdown. Look,
wow.
Fitzmagic loves him, and I expect him to have a good game against his Jaguars defense. But once again, if I have him, I'm starting him, but I'm still not starting him with confidence. I'm not confident in him because he's on the Miami Dolphins. But you're buzzing if you picked him up in the later rounds, or you might have even got him on the waiver wires, because he is proven to be somebody really valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is, if you have Gesicki on your team, you've got some really good depth. And I am more and more, as the days go on, as the weeks go on, sound like I'm in some crazy journey, I'm getting more confident in Gesicki. But yeah, very interesting player to watch. On to the Jaguars side of the ball. Gardner Minshew. What a guy. This dude just exudes confidence. Honestly. The mustache, the shorts, jeans. I think, is there a more confident quarterback? Probably. But this dude just exudes that Ricky Bobby Talladega Nights confidence, and I love it. It's someone that you want to see him win. I think this week he's a really, really great streaming option against this Miami defense.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of money in free agency, but it hasn't stopped any team. It's only been 2 weeks, but it hasn't stopped any team from putting up points on Miami. I like Gardner as a streaming option this week. Someone sent us a DM and said Gardner Minshew or Drew Brees. Drew Brees is at home, and I think purely because he plays really well at home, you might have to start Drew, but the conversation is there, and I wouldn't blame you if you started Gardner.
No,
potentially could be one of the surprises of the year, Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, if I'm starting Gardner Minshew over Drew Brees, it's purely because of matchup. I'm not starting him over anyone. I mean, I'm definitely starting him over a couple people, but if it's over Drew Brees, I think I have to go Drew Brees every week. But you could take a chance if you really love the matchup there, for sure.
There's a really weird side of me that loves to take a risk every once in a while, and I would feel comfortable taking this risk on a Thursday night, watching it, knowing that after the game, I'm either really happy or I'm really frustrated at myself. Speaking of another surprise on the Jaguars, James Robinson. It was reported before the season that Thompson was the guy, and then James Robinson came out and said, actually, no, I am that guy. You found me. James Robinson. What a surprise this year. The Jags in general, but both Gardner and Robinson have been a very good surprise. Last week, Robinson's stat line, 16 rushes, 102 yards, 1 touchdown, had 3 catches, and ended with 21 fantasy points. I can talk about Robinson personally because I picked him up before week 1 just as a flyer. I lost CMC this week in our league, the Fellowship of the Fantasy Ring. In a weird way, I don't know exactly how to describe it. I'm confident that Robinson can fill in as a RB2 flex play until CMC is back.
Wow.
I see the opportunity. I see the volume. A really good matchup against Miami. Am I having false confidence?
No, I think your confidence is purely from obviously last week's game, but also the matchup this week. I think that you you aren't wrong if you are in Zach's position and you lost CMC or you lost Saquon or you lost Raheem Mostert. James Robinson is a good guy that you can plug in as an RB2 flex play, like he said. You have to start him with confidence.
Definitely. On to the wide receiver core here in Jacksonville. A little bit of a strange start to the year. DJ Chark was an expected breakout this year. He hasn't killed your team so far, but he certainly hasn't.
Right.
You haven't been blown away by his performances.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. Another guy who was considered a breakout this year was Calvin Ridley. Obviously, he's been straight cash both weeks. We've talked about him. In drafts, Chark and Ridley were being drafted nearly beside each other. Very, very close to each other. In fact, I went back to look at our league, the Fellowship of the Fantasy Ring.
Right.
And I went back to look at where Chark and where Ridley were drafted. And I found out that in the 4th round, Sam Green took DJ Chark one spot before I took Calvin Ridley.
Wow.
For the season so far, very young season, Calvin Ridley is a wide receiver 1. DJ Chark is a wide receiver 34. Now, I'm in no way saying I am a genius because I took Calvin Ridley. I very much wanted DJ Chark instead of Calvin Ridley to start the year. Genuinely, I believed in that breakout. And here's the thing. I still believe there is that breakout potential. DJ Chark is still the most talented wide receiver, potentially the most talented player on this offense.
Yeah.
The opportunity hasn't been there. Some of it has been matchup based and game scripts, but some of it has also been these other 2 wide receivers on this team.
Right.
I don't know how to say this exactly right, but Laviska Shenault Jr., he is a big, strong, physical rookie, and every rep that he's gotten so far, he's played really well. He's currently the wide receiver 35. If you have Shenault or DJ Chark, they're pretty much at this very time the same wide receiver in fantasy points.
That's crazy.
I still think Chark is the guy to own. I don't think that this is some, Chenault's the guy and Chark is, he's in the back. I still think Chark is the guy, but there's another guy to talk about who's actually, we haven't even talked about so far, the best wide receiver in this offense. Only 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Keelan Cole. Keelan Cole is getting consistent targets. He's currently the wide receiver 17.
Talk it up.
All of the NFL.
Talk it up.
All of the NFL. Now, here's the thing that you need to know with Keelan Cole. He is a very streaky player. He's done this before. He's had big games.
Classic.
You've picked him off the waiver wire. I remember many, many years in fantasy. Keelan Cole, get him off the waiver wire. Puts up 3 points. Here's the thing with Keelan Cole. I think he is a very interesting waiver wire pickup. He should be available on most waivers.
Yeah.
But just know that this consistency, I don't think, will continue. I personally feel the ball will start going to Chark more. I think the season ends Chark wide receiver 1, Shenault wide receiver 2, and Keelan Cole wide receiver 3. Do you have any arguments against that?
No.
Do you think that's true?
No, I don't think so. I like DJ Chark. I think that they are still going to have an even separate or spread of the ball personally, but DJ Chark is definitely number 1 guy. If I had DJ Chark on my team right now, I'm hoping that he goes off this game so I can sell him high next week, because once again, there's just something about this Miami defense or this Miami offense and this Jacksonville offense that I just don't want anyone on my team, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I'm selling any of these guys on either of these teams and selling them.
Except for Robinson, from what it sounds like. Robinson''s the one guy you're happy to have on your team.
Not me,
right?
But yeah, I mean, if they look, I don't know. I just can't trust anyone on either of these teams. If I had Robinson, I'm buzzing.
Sounds like you have trust issues, Badaki.
Oh, 100%.
This could be beyond fantasy football.
No, it's not even that. I think it's just known. It's known, man. It's known. These 2 teams aren't good, and I don't want anyone. Like James Robinson is probably the biggest thing front since Leonard Fournette when he first came in on this team.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, obviously trust is hard to find in these two teams, but Thursday Night Football, I'm excited for it. I will be starting some of these players, and I'm excited to see if my heart is broken or if I am happy. We are moving on to a league update, the Fellowship of the Fantasy Ring. That's our fantasy league.
Yep.
We're going to talk about it. We're going to give you an update. We're going to let you know what's going on in that league after week 2. If you haven't been able to see the guys in our league, check our Instagram story highlights. There is a highlight there that is player profiles or owners, I think it's called. Check it out. Have a look at all the guys. We got some super interesting guys in our league. Interesting week 2, Badaki, wasn't it?
Interesting week 2. I'm excited. I think a lot of things happened that were expected and unexpected.
Yeah.
But we'll just give you a little stat right now. The highest scoring of this week was Zach over Luke, 181 points. I mean, just classic. One, he's the commissioner, and then he's also the co-host of the FantasyLand podcast.
Wow.
Conspiracy. I don't know, but it's okay.
Yeah, I honestly think part of it is just luck. Like I said, I would have drafted DJ Chark if DJ Chark was there. Sometimes fantasy is a lot of luck. But lowest scorer this week is Wesley, Jordan Westfield. Wesley finished with 112 points. Here's the thing. Wesley lost to Brandon Baca.
Right.
I think for the most part, we all had Brandon Baca as the loser here.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
100%. I thought Wesley was going to take this clearly just looking at Baca's team. So
yeah.
It was really interesting that Baca got this W, but it makes the league interesting now that Baca and both Tommy won this week. So
yeah, big upsets from what we saw. Nick Chubb and Dak, I think, were on Baca's team, and they just carried him to a really good win. Every team in the league broke 100 points this week. So I just want to take a second. Let's give some claps to the boys.
Yeah.
Well
Great
done.
job.
Yeah.
It's a huge
everyone hit
accomplishment.
100 at least.
A huge
That's
accomplishment. Right. Absolutely.
Which didn't happen last week. Getting a little more consistent play from our players.
That's right.
But we're going to do this every week. We've got a week 2 recap video. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see the guys. If you're listening, you'll be able to hear it. But we're just going to give you a little bit of a reaction from week 2, and let's just get straight to it. Here are the guys in our league.
Hey, Prestige Worldwide here.
Right, where do I begin?
Another day, another dollar.
It's Daniel with Team Name Pending, just giving you the week 2 recap.
What's going on, FantasyLand Football? Luke here, checking in after week 2.
Jay Allen and Diggs played really well for me.
We lost to Tommy, unfortunately. He scored like 247 points.
Ended up having my first W, which is great. Jordan Reed popped off, which is what I could only ask for from the lad who was stepping in for Kittle.
I'm very impressed with Miles Sanders' first game back.
Adams injured pretty much for the whole of the second half.
Lost by 13 points, and I can only point the finger at Will Fuller for getting 0 points.
I was bailed out by a couple of things. First of all, Will Fuller didn't score any points for Burnsy, which is absolutely massive for me.
Just really upset. I reckon I could have won it, but I don't know why Fuller didn't get any targets or anything.
Matched up against Commissioner Zach, and he's a fantasy analyst for a reason. He's got 181 points this week.
Made a midweek transfer or trade, for Higbee, and he played really well for me too. As we all know, he got 3 touchdowns.
I had 135. Again, a decent score, but just not enough.
You know, I'm really excited about my team. It looks really, really good.
Looking to play Elijah this week. One of us has to go 0-3 because we're both 0-2. And I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be me. Tune in next week for my post-game review. If I do lose, I'll probably do it in the dark.
Thoughts and prayers going out to the D-line at Niners. We love you.
I'm 0-2, but I'm still very confident I can make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. Hopefully go 3-0. I just want that playoff spot, you know. That's what I'm looking for right now. Just get me in the playoffs and anything can happen.
Don't rule me out just yet. I'll see you there, boys.
Just get me into the playoffs and anything can happen.
Honestly, Jordan Burrows is a stud.
My gosh.
He is
there
a
more
beautiful man.
you can think of?
We'll say that.
Is there a more beautiful man you could think of?
Oh,
right
absolutely. Myself. I mean, if I had to rank somebody, it's definitely myself and then JB. Without a doubt.
Yeah. I'm going to put JB slightly ahead of you, but I understand.
That's fair.
I get where you're coming
Your
from.
personal opinion.
JB,
It's all right.
wow, what a beautiful man. It's only a personal opinion. There's no facts there. But very interesting to see how everyone reacted after the league for week 2, League rankings. Let's go through them.
Yeah. League rankings.
I'm currently first. Badaki is currently second. Yes, we do host the podcast. We are first and second. I do think a lot of it is just luck of the draw, though.
We
I don't know. Am I speaking for myself?
We have to be on the top. Like if we want to lead this podcast, I mean, we have to show the people that we are the best currently in the league.
Yeah, I would love to win. We'll see. We'll see what goes on.
Yeah, still a lot of football.
Joe Dickow is in third. He's the quiet sleeper.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his team had a lot of iffy pieces at first, but he's consistent right now. So solid number 3.
Yeah. Speaking of JB, I feel like in 4th place right now at 2-0. JB for me, surprise of the year? Question mark.
I don't know. I mean, I had faith in JB. He's my fellow Giant fan. I wasn't surprised at all. I think he had a great draft, and he was my predictor to have a great draft. And
yeah, fair.
I think he's placed where he's at. He's currently placed 4th because of points. Yeah. I mean, I think he's right where he needs to be.
Yep. Steve is at 5. He kind of always lingers around there.
Yeah. Classic
the 2
Tommy.
surprises I think this week is Tommy, your boy Bricks, and Brandon Baca coming in at 6th and 7th with comeback games.
Wow.
Started
Huge.
off 0-1, but looking more hopeful now.
Absolutely. I mean, a massive jump from they were both 11 and 12, now 6th and 7th. Wow.
Yep. Big improvement. Here's Wesley in 8th. Now, we're going to tell you a quote. This is Wesley speaking to Baca, and Baca's reported to us. This is on the record information. Wesley's in 8th place, and he said this to Baca. He said, and I quote, "We should work together to win this league, and we'll split the winnings." That is just collusion at its finest. It was put in the group chat. There were screenshots, receipts. This is the kind of behavior that you just cannot have in your fantasy football league. Am I right?
No, absolutely not. I think these are words from a first-year fantasy footballer team owner. I think he got his first loss, and he's panicking.
Yep, absolutely panicking.
Yeah.
Illinois is 0-2 at 9, but has a very strong team. Same with Luke at 10. I'm not worried about him. I feel like he's going to be fine. However, Sam Green in 11th at 0-2. Sam Green is a very good fantasy player. How is he 0-2?
He just has a lot of injuries. Not a lot of injuries. He just had the main injury of the year so far this season, and Saquon is out. And
yeah,
I mean, if Saquon was healthy, I think he could have won against me personally.
Yeah,
but look, it's not that it's not surprising. It is surprising that Sam is 0-2. But look, I'm expecting him to bounce back. Once he goes 0-2, he's going to make a crazy trade for somebody that we might think is irrelevant, and then flip it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. Elijah finishes us off at 12th place. Could there be a more unlucky person in fantasy? Elijah Burns. Just
you got to love the boy.
Always seems to have bad luck.
Yeah. I mean, 0-2, but it's okay. I heard he's doing great in another league, but I mean, this is the one that really matters, to be honest.
For sure. I think Elijah, we can all agree, is a guy that you want to see win.
Yeah.
That is an update on our league, the Fellowship of the Fantasy Ring. Head to our Instagram page so you can see bios for every single player and keep up with the season. We're going to continue to let you know what's happening every Wednesday.
Yeah.
We are moving on to our next segment, a very controversial segment so far. Trade targets. We are going to give you trade for and trade away targets, 2 each. Last week, we told you to trade for Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler,
yep,
AJ Green, and Jared Cook. I think we got at least 3 out of 4 of those right.
Absolutely. I mean, Nick Chubb went off. Austin Eckler is back. Jared Cook got a touchdown. I mean, he just barely passed that little threshold that we were hoping that he'll end up to be. And AJ Green, obviously, he was probably our biggest disappointment of the week, but still a lot of hope there for AJ.
A lot of hope, a lot of targets. Still early to say if these trades have panned off or not, but it's looking like we gave some decent advice. Trade away targets as well, we're going to give you some. But let's start with trade for. Badaki, start us off with your first trade for target this week.
I'm actually really excited about this one. This is a guy that I am already in talks with somebody to get. And this is A.J. Brown, wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. Look, I think he's going to come back. He's going to come back, and if he stays healthy, those numbers that you see Corey Davis getting, that's A.J. Brown.
Yep.
That's that point blank period. I know Derrick Henry is getting 30-some touches a game, but A.J. Brown is going to find the end zone somehow. He is a beast of a wide receiver, and let's not forget what he did last year. His numbers were incredible.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, he's clearly the most talented wide receiver on that team.
Definitely. Without a doubt. I mean, I was watching his highlight reel before the draft. He is one of those players that physically, like DK Metcalf almost, it doesn't make sense how built they are.
No.
And how fast they are.
They're huge.
And how no one can tackle him. I love it. I love AJ
I love
Brown.
it as well. I think this is somebody you guys should be trading for. He's been hurt. Get him on the low. Get him on the low now because he's going to be somebody that you can plug in every week.
I love it. AJ Brown is our first trade for target. My first trade for target is Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
Here's the deal with trading. When you trade, you always want to consider matchups. So if someone is sending me a trade offer, I'm always looking at the next 3 to 5 to 6 games.
Right.
Is this going to be worth my time to trade for this player? So with Melvin, his next 2 matchups are against Tampa Bay and the New York Giants. Obviously very early into the season, but currently Tampa Bay is ranked 28th against fantasy running backs, and New York Jets, are ranked 26th against fantasy running backs.
Right.
So part of this trade for argument for me is you want to trade now because there is clearly a lot of volume for Melvin. Last week, he went up against the Steelers, probably the best defense in the NFL, and he got 16 points. I think in the next 2 weeks, we start to see his average of 16. We start to see that climb a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, let me be very clear, though. You want to trade him right after week 4. Week 5 onwards is a couple hard matchups. So what you want to do is trade him, play him week 3, play him week 4. Probably will have some good games. And then you want to trade him high right before his schedule gets a little bit harder. With Denver, there's a lot of injuries going on right now. I feel like they're going to go with a more simplified game plan as Drew Lock is out.
Yeah.
That means for me, more dump offs to Melvin. With Melvin being the guy right now with Phillip Lindsay still injured, I feel like Melvin is primed to kind of go up the ranks of the running backs in these next 2 weeks. I want to be super clear on one thing with these trade for and trade away targets. When we tell you to trade for someone, we are not telling you to trade away your best player for this person.
Right.
When we're telling you to trade away someone, we're also not telling you to trade them away for nothing. We always consider trading for on the low and trading away on the high. So for me, Melvin Gordon has not necessarily met people's expectations. He hasn't hurt teams, but he hasn't blown you away.
Right.
I feel like Melvin Gordon is a great trade target for this week.
That's great. Look, I actually, now listening to you say that, I was not thinking, I completely forgot that Drew was hurt. And I forgot, like, Melvin is a great pass catching back. He's going to be getting, the flats. He's going to, that option read for for whoever's going to be the lead quarterback there. I think that's crazy. Wow. Melvin Gordon, my guy, probably the biggest disappointment of the week for a lot of people. And my trade for is Will Fuller. Will Fuller is,
Okay.
I mean, look, he dropped the biggest goose egg you can probably think of. A lot of people started him with confidence, but do not worry. I think Will Fuller is going to be back. I think after this week, they saw that I can't believe he wasn't targeted. I think Deshaun is looking back at that tape and saying, why didn't I target Will Fuller? And I think that he's going to come back and say, we're going to get you the ball more. And I promise you that. Look, I know week 3 right now he's playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is a tough matchup. To be fair, the Texans did have, their first 3 games are the toughest. They had Kansas City, Baltimore, and then Pittsburgh this week. But let me tell you who he's playing after week 3. Okay? He's playing the Minnesota Vikings, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Tennessee Titans, which if I had Will Fuller, I'm starting with confidence for all 3 of those games. Okay? So if you need a good receiver, if you need a flex starter, Will Fuller is that guy. And I think a lot of people are upset at Will Fuller. I think a lot of people are disappointed. And I think a lot of people are going to be either selling him or just keeping him on their bench and not doing anything with him. So I will get him on the low.
A lot of people have been hurt by this guy.
Yeah. 100%. I think you have to. I think this is somebody I'm targeting as well. Like, to be honest, the two people that I also want to say this. When I'm telling you the people that I'm trading for, these are guys I'm actually targeting in our league.
Right.
I've sent multiple trades to, I think Elijah has him, and then Luke has AJ Brown. I'm trading for them.
Right. I love it. I think obviously we saw the volume in week 1. Week 2, a lot of people will say it was the injury. That was a big reason he didn't see that same target volume. I think personally it was a matchup. Baltimore is a great defense. We have seen that. There's no debating Baltimore's defense.
Yeah.
They're just a good defense. I love it. On to our last trade for target, Adam Thielen. This might be a puzzling one, not because we are telling you to trade for him, but because you probably think that you can't trade for him.
Wow.
This week, Adam Thielen put 6.1 fantasy points on the board. A lot of that was because Kirk Cousins had one of his worst games of his career. Through 3 interceptions, was wildly inaccurate. It just was not a very good game for Kirk Cousins.
Right.
We talked about this before on the first trade for, trade away segment. There are always people in your leagues who will freak out based off of 1 week. This is that 1 week you need to take advantage of whoever has Adam Thielen. Last week, what did he score? 33 points?
Yeah.
I promise you, no one was even willing to have the conversation of, can I have Adam Thielen? But who's taking away the targets from Thielen here? Who are you worried about? Who in this offense are you worried about from taking targets from him? It's an off game, but don't let that off game, I guess, make you think he is a player that he's not. Adam Thielen is a wide receiver 1. He's going to finish as a top 12 wide receiver. I don't think there's any question about that personally. Here's some guys that I think you might be able to use as trade pieces to get Adam Thielen this week. Julian Edelman had an amazing week, set a career high. There could be people very high on Julian Edelman. Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs has had a couple great games. I personally would still rather have Adam Thielen. Could I be wrong? I could be very wrong. DJ Chark. While he hasn't had the best games, he has been consistently around 14 or 15 points. You could sell the upside. These are players that someone in your league might value over Adam Thielen. So what's your job? You got to make some calls right now. Send some texts. You never know what you could get. I still believe Adam Thielen Thielen, is easily a top 12 wide receiver.
Yeah, absolutely.
See what you can do.
I think so as well. I think Thielen is somebody that is going to be. People traded him high, and there's a reason for it because there's no competition, and I think that's probably the most clear line of vision that you have to get Adam Thielen. There's no one else.
Yeah,
literally no
I
one.
agree. There is no one else in that offense.
Yeah.
On to our trade away targets. These are players that we are currently looking to trade away. Again, to clarify, we are not telling you to trade them away for nothing. Someone DM'd us and was angry because we said to drop the player. Here's the thing. We are not telling you to trade away these people for nothing. They are valuable fantasy assets. Obviously, we are telling you to trade away to get the value that we think is more valuable back.
Right.
So my first trade away target is Todd Gurley.
Wow.
Todd Gurley, last week, 21 rushes, 61 yards. And that's how you sell it. The volume. Purely the volume is how you sell it. Todd Gurley, man, did he have a bad week? Yeah, 6.1 fantasy points. But did you see his volume? 21 rushes? Are you kidding me? This guy is going to continually be a part of this high-powered offense. And what you don't talk about at all is the passing game. Because Todd Gurley has not been involved in the passing game much at all. He doesn't look like the same player. He doesn't look very agile. Todd Gurley has had 37 touches this year and has forced 0 missed tackles.
Wow.
You want to know who has forced more missed tackles than Todd Gurley?
I'm listening.
Peyton Barber.
Shout out
Frank
to Peyton.
Gore. Look, the list goes, it's a very long list. I think there are 43 players who have forced more missed tackles. Running backs, just running backs.
Right.
I think what we feared is probably true. He's not the same player. To be very clear, this is not a trade high because you can't trade him high right now. Right. But you want to push the volume onto someone. Here's running backs that I would rather have. David Montgomery, I would rather have than Todd Gurley. Melvin Gordon, I would rather have than Todd Gurley. David Johnson, I would rather have than Todd Gurley. Am I crazy?
Interesting. I would like to have Monty over Todd. I would like to have David Johnson over Todd. I would be on the fence of having Melvin just purely because he is sharing touches. But, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. One last question. Todd Gurley or James Robinson? Let's say someone sent you a trade right now for trade. Todd Gurley, James Robinson. Who are you going to go with?
This is kind of tough here. I think your answer would be James Robinson, obviously, because you're trading away. But I would have to go maybe Todd. Purely because I think I said it earlier, James Robinson is on the Jaguars. I don't trust anyone on the Jaguars. I don't trust Todd Gurley either. Yeah. So this is a really tough decision, really tough choice.
And I don't have an answer for you necessarily, Todd Gurley or James Robinson. I just wanted to highlight the fact that we're even having this conversation means that you need to trade away Todd Gurley.
That's right. That's crazy. Probably Todd for me, but it's all right. I'll continue with my guy, my trade away guy. Look, once again, controversy, but he scored 20.10 fantasy points this week, and his name is James Conner. James Conner is someone that did really well in week 2, and I think that he is still iffy for me. He had 16 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown in week 2. But my main concern is can he stay healthy? If I had James Conner on my team and I'm watching the game, I'm clenching every part of my body, hoping that when he gets hit, he's not gonna get up limping, or he's not gonna be hurt or laying on the floor. Like I'm not confident. And don't get me wrong, James Conner is very talented. He did, like I said,
Yeah.
he did very well in week 2. He did he's talented for sure.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
I'm personally selling him high because I cannot trust that his injury risk, I think, is a lot more higher than his value right now.
Right.
And I think that was
Right.
the same thing for Dalvin last year or 2 years ago, because it was like, oh, we love Dalvin. He's very talented, but you have to get the handcuff. You have to get Alexander
Right.
Madison. James Conner
Right.
doesn't have a great handcuff right now. I mean, Benny Snell did do well week 1, but that was against the Giants defense, you know?
Yeah.
So if I were you, if I had James Conner, I would personally be selling him high. And I would personally have I think a David Montgomery or for James Conner, or a David Johnson over James Conner. Once again, he's very talented. He's a strong runner, but can he stay healthy? That's the only reasons why I'll be trading him away.
For sure. It's a risk aversion move, and I'm on board with it. I like it. Yeah. On to number 3, my second trade away target, John Smokey Brown out of Buffalo. John Brown has, that was his nickname from Baltimore, which I love it. It makes me think of, I don't know. I just love it. I love barbecue,
Smokey
and
Robinson,
I just love
maybe?
the thought of it. Yeah, maybe. He's played so well this year. He's actually played so well. And this is very much a sell high situation. Now, to be clear, if you believe that Josh Allen can continue this form, go ahead and skip through the next 5 minutes of this podcast, okay? Because you don't need to hear it. However, if you believe there's a chance Josh Allen doesn't exactly continue this form, struggles a couple games, then let's talk. John Brown, for me, he will have a lot of boom games, but he will have a lot of bust games. Right now, he's coming off 2 boom games where he's played very well. So how you sell him is you sell him on the consistency. Look at how consistent John Brown has been. Yeah, you thought after week 1 it was a fluke. Look at week 2. You need more than 2 weeks? No, you don't. Trade him away. That's how I am personally looking at selling John Brown. And you might have John Brown or be upset that I'm saying this, but here's a question I want to ask you. Here's the biggest selling point for me. Ask yourself this question. Will I ever be happy seeing John Brown in my starting lineup? Will I ever put John Brown in there and think, man, that looks really good? I'm really excited to see what John Brown can do this week.
No.
After you've answered that question, you have your answer as to whether you should trade him away. Right now, he's sitting at wide receiver 9. That will not continue, but I could easily see him finish as a top 25 wide receiver this year. He's played well, but for me, is there a risk trading him away? Yes, but I would trade him away right now on his, boom games that he's currently in.
Consistency. Sell him on the consistency.
Do it.
Crazy. My last guy for my trade away, once again, he did very well this week or last week. 8 receptions, 11 targets, 103 yards.
Wow.
Mike Gesicki.
Okay.
Look, once again, great guy.
We've talked a lot about this guy.
Yeah, great guy, great player. Talent, a lot of talent. But once again, my main concern is his team. The Miami Dolphins is a team that I don't want any players on. This whole team is known to have inconsistencies. Matty Fitz, Devontae Parker.
You mean Ryan Fitz? I think
Ryan Fitz. Ryan. Yeah. I went everywhere there. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Ryan Fitz.
Yeah.
Great guys.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, Devontae Parker, all the running backs in the history of the running backs. I can't get on board with these guys. I can't.
Yeah.
And if you're like me and you just don't, and you have Mike Gesicki, you got him undrafted, you got him, in the late rounds, sell him high. Maybe you have a Miami's Dolphins fan in your league, and you can trade him. You can trade for him. I would personally would rather have so many other tight ends over Mike Gesicki, which I'm going to ask you, Zach. Would you rather have, I guess, current stat wise, because I think they're probably all on the same level. I think Gesicki is probably like tight end number 8 potentially, around there right now. But Noah Fant or Mike Gesicki, rest of the season.
Noah Fant or Mike Gesicki. Noah Fant, and it's honestly, I know I paused, but I don't think it's close.
Right. The only reason why I would say Noah Fant over Mike Gesicki is because people are on the edge now that Drew is out for Noah.
Yeah.
So
fair.
Is he going to get that volume that he got when he was in there, or should you take the risk and get Gesicki because he has his quarterback that loves to target him? And
by the way, I just want to say I just quickly looked. He is currently the tight end 6.
Wow.
That's surprising to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously out of week 2.
Yeah.
But there's so many tight ends that like we weren't expecting to be here right now.
Yeah,
like
totally.
Jonnu Smith.
I love Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, and I think he's currently tight end number 1 or tight end number 2 of week 2 now.
He's 3 currently. He's 3 currently.
So like, yeah,
you got Travis and Darren who just went crazy.
Yeah, so like that's what I'm saying. Like I would rather have these guys, and people may find the inconsistency in those guys in a Noah or a Jonnu. So
yeah, I feel that.
I would love to swap any of these guys right now.
I love it. We are going to give you those are our trade away targets. Trade for, trade away targets. I'm going to give you one risk. We're going to give you one risk taker. We like to take risks sometimes. Yep. We're going to do this very quickly. The risk taker for us this week, Robbie Anderson. Okay? Currently wide receiver 5. That won't stay throughout the year. We believe DJ Moore is wide receiver 1. McCaffrey is out 4 to 6 weeks. The targets have to go somewhere. In 2 weeks, Robbie Anderson has had 18 targets, averaging 22 fantasy points. Here's the deal. There was always talent with Robbie Anderson. Our question is, has he finally found a place that will utilize that talent properly? Is this a big risk? Yes. But sometimes big risks can pay off. Here's how you sell when you're buying the player. He's got a very tough matchup against the Chargers this week, and I don't know that he will even do well. That's how you tell someone that they need to trade you, Robbie Anderson. Talk about matchup, basically. Tell them how hard it's going to be, and see if that risk can pay off. Robbie Anderson, interesting name to follow.
Absolutely. You have to. Wide receiver 5, that's crazy. Yeah.
Obviously only 2 weeks in, but we like taking some risks. So there's a risk for you to take. But hey, thank you so much for joining us. We've got another episode coming this week. Start, sit, advice, and week 3 matchups. So grateful that you would take the time out and listen to the podcast with Badaki and I. We are doing a Tyreek Hill giveaway, a signed Tyreek Hill jersey from Pristine Auction. The giveaway is on our Instagram. Super easy to enter.
4 days left.
By the way, 4 days left. We are going to announce the winner on Monday Night Football next week. Chiefs at Ravens. By the way, while you're on our giveaway, go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram. You can follow us on Twitter at FantasyLand_FB. You can listen to the podcast on any podcast platform. You can watch it on YouTube. Subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. But thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited for this week. I'm excited for the next episode. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot to talk about in that next episode.
That's right. There's so much more football to be played, and that's what's great about fantasy. Every week is different.
Some weeks you win, some weeks you lose.
Yep.
But hopefully you're winning more than you're losing. And thank you so much for taking the time out. This has been the FantasyLand Football Podcast. We will see you on the next one. See you there.
Hey, yeah, you, the one listening to this podcast. you made a good decision today. Keep making those good decisions. You know what? Go ahead and do a little dance right now, like no one's watching. 'Cause you deserve it.